What if death were just a moment, and everything you've lived, loved, and lost is raw material for your awakening? Not something to escape, but something to transform. The path of spiritual practice, the sadhana, isn't about adding more beliefs on top of who you think you are. It's about evolving from the small, anxious I that ends at your skin into the soul that has already moved through many endings and many beginnings. The ego is tied to this one biography. It's preoccupied with keeping the story going, bracing against the moment it will stop. The soul has died and been reborn so many times that death is just another doorway. When you practice deeply enough to catch even a single glimpse of the living spirit, when your heart cracks open for even a breath to unconditional love, everything, your triumphs, your failures, your pain, your desires, becomes fuel for the mill of awakening. You stop sorting your life into sacred and profane, useful and useless. It all becomes path. The awakening is a shift from the tight, defensive consciousness of the ego into your true nature, the universal spirit, the God consciousness present in all beings. That is the road we walk, the way of spiritual practice. Where do you begin? Many traditions require a formal practice for spiritual progress. Others say nothing formal is needed, and people do just fine. I can't declare that practice is mandatory for everyone, but I can say it's profoundly helpful, and I encourage it. Early on, try different methods. Let yourself be generous with experimentation. There's a practice that fits the particular grain of your karma. Like the way a key fits a lock. To find it, listen to your own heart. There's a quiet place in you that already knows the way. The mind will try to weigh options and predict outcomes, but there is a current beneath thought that simply recognizes truth. Get still enough to feel it. Rest in the heart. Let the mind's chatter loosen. Trust the place in you beyond thinking that already knows. As you explore, there's also great value in depth. Swami Satchitananda once teased me for being an eclectic practitioner. He said, "You can't dig shallow wells everywhere and expect to find fresh water. Dig one deep well." It's a beautiful metaphor, and like most good metaphors, it doesn't have to cancel the other side. In practice, I've watched people start off eclectic, trying many approaches. Over time, something starts to pull at them. A teacher, a mantra, a way of sitting, and they commit. Through that narrow opening, the hourglass of practice turns, and on the other side you find everything is included. Ramakrishna said you can do all the practices, and when seen from the far shore, they are one. The funnel is narrow in the middle, wide on both ends. So go gently, keep experimenting until you feel genuinely drawn into deeper work. Then practice with a pure heart and a simple wish to be free. Don't assume you know the whole road just because you've found the next step. You might say, "This is it, my practice." But the you who chose it will be changed by it. What was appropriate for your consciousness at one stage might not serve you later. Stay open and attentive to the subtle shifts inside. Practice can evolve like seasons. Winter asks for stillness. Spring asks for devotion. Summer asks for service. Autumn asks for letting go. Let your practice adjust to the weather of your soul, and practice with joy and appreciation. If you start with reluctance, "Ugh, I have to meditate," the practice can eventually erode that resistance. But that's not always the kindest route. Think of forced Sunday rituals that leave a bitter taste years later. I'd rather you step away for a time than grind through out of guilt or a sense of being bad if you don't. Let longing ripen when you are truly hungry for God, for truth, for stillness. Even 10 minutes on the cushion tastes like nectar. If you don't want to practice today, don't. Be honest, be kind, and keep the door open. When the call returns, answer with gratitude. What is the spiritual path itself? A soul incarnates into a human life to pass through experiences that will wake it from the illusion of separation. This physical embodiment is a process, an unfolding curriculum. We are on an inevitable course of awakening, even when it looks like detours and delays. If you really let that sink in, your practice gains patience and a sense of timelessness. You stop practicing because you should, and start practicing because, at the level of your soul, there's nothing else you would rather do. In Sanskrit, this ripened clarity is called Vairagya, weariness with worldly grasping, paired with mumukshutvam, the single-hearted longing for liberation. The spiritual attraction is the desire that consumes all desires, and then it dissolves too, because you dissolve in the realization. As perspective deepens, you begin to see your life inside a wider frame. Melodramas, cravings, and sufferings are no longer events happening to a limited me, but movements in a much larger project. You start to sense a structure around your life, something vaster and wiser in which this incarnation is taking place. You can't control that structure, but you can align with it. Each of us has a unique path. I don't know yours, and I barely know mine, but I can predict it will likely include giving up some cherished ideas about yourself, who you think you are, and where you think you're going. Gradually, it becomes clear we are part of a process, a stream of mind, moment after moment, arising and passing. Not a permanent self that moves from body to body, but a weaving of causes and conditions, the law of cause and effect, playing out in a dance of nature and appearance. When you open to that, you become less interested in watching your own drama unfold. Even the noble storyline, I am trying to get enlightened, is, in the end, just more karma. There comes a point where you can't stomach one more loop of that. You want the quiet behind the story. How do you deepen your practice? Let spirit permeate your life. Surround yourself with reminders of what matters. A small altar in the corner, a photo that softens your chest, a line of scripture on the fridge, a mala by your bed. These outward forms are not the point, but they can calm the mind and open the heart, like a scent that recalls home. Remember, the real work is within, but don't be shy about sprinkling your days with grace. Perhaps you choose to dive more fully into meditation. Through it, you learn to be very still, and stillness reveals wisdom. Wisdom doesn't always arrive as words. Sometimes it's the clean feeling of seeing clearly, there's grasping, there's fear, there's tenderness underneath. When wisdom shows you where you're tangled, it naturally invites purification. You soften what is rigid, you release what is stale, you forgive what has hardened, and the more you purify, the more intense and coherent your meditation becomes. Stronger meditation leads you deeper. Deeper insight reveals subtler impurities. The spiral continues quietly and inevitably, like a spring tightening to a single point. So persist. Keep showing up for what draws you. Meditation, mantra, kirtan, devotional singing, prayer, service, mindful work. Different doors, same room. Each practice offers you a chance to return to the compassionate quality of your heart and to your native intuitive knowing. Little by little you enter the temple of your own being, not as an idea, but as a felt presence, the simple okayness that doesn't need the next moment to be different. From there you can become an instrument of joy when joy is needed, of equanimity when storms roll in, of presence when someone is hurting, of love when a hand reaches out, of availability when the world says, I need you, and you remain utterly at ease, not because life is easy, but because you are resting in the place that isn't threatened by any of it. One helpful image. Imagine you're standing behind a waterfall. On the outside, water crashes, thoughts, emotions, headlines, obligations. Step behind the veil. You can still hear the roar, but it no longer batters you. Meditation practices teach you how to step behind and stay there while living your ordinary life. Or picture this. You are the sky. Thoughts and moods are weather. Sunny, stormy, windy, all permitted, all passing. Sadhana is learning not to mistake weather for sky. In the beginning, it can help to pick a rhythm. Sit at dawn or at dusk, even for 10 quiet minutes. Let the breath be your anchor. Or choose a mantra that feels like a friend. Let it ride the breath, round after round, until the mantra begins to repeat you. If your heart opens through devotion, sing. Let your voice break. Let tears come. Let love move the body. If service is your path, serve without bargaining for results. Wash the dish as if it were a flower. Listen to the colleague as if they were a child of God. Walk the dog as if you were being walked by the divine. The form matters less than the sincerity. A word about guidance. Teachers can be catalysts. Communities can be mirrors. If you're guided to a lineage, drink deeply. If you're guided to solitude, trust that too. The sign you're on track is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of humility, tenderness, and a steady willingness to begin again. Quick pause to meet you where you are. Which practice is calling you right now? Breath, mantra, devotion, service, or simple presence? Are you in the season of sampling or ready to dig one deep well? Drop a comment with where you are on the path. And if this journey resonates, consider liking this video and subscribing so we can keep walking together, one honest step at a time. As practice ripens, you may notice your relationship to desire changing. Vairagya isn't repression, it's saturation. Like eating so many sweets, you naturally crave something clean. The world's delights still arise, but they are no longer tyrants. The hunger for spiritual realization becomes the center of gravity. This doesn't make you dour or detached in a cold way. It makes you simple. You laugh more easily. You forgive faster. You spend less time rehearsing grievances and more time resting in the heart. There is also a surrender of your proudest spiritual ideas, especially the identity of the one who's doing practice well. The moment you believe, I am a serious meditator, life will hand you a week of restlessness. When you think you've achieved compassion, someone cuts you off in traffic. When you imagine you've mastered humility, you catch yourself judging someone else's path. These humblings are blessings. They sand the edges of the ego and return you to the beginner's mind, where everything true happens. Let the path do its work on you. Lean into honesty and humor. Nothing matures the soul like laughing gently at your own spiritual vanity. As you keep going, the sense of being a doer can soften. Actions happen, work, caring for family, creating, serving, but they feel more like movements of the whole than projects of a separate me. It's as if the current carries you. The small will relaxes into a larger will. You start to trust that when you rest in the heart, the next right action reveals itself and you can respond without strain. At some point, whether briefly or abidingly, the ocean of illusion and attachment goes quiet and you glimpse the formless. No shape, no story, no argument, just vast, unconditioned stillness. You don't disappear. You discover what has always held you. Then you return to the world of forms, wash the dishes, answer the emails, offer a kind word to a stranger, and the stillness hums underneath it all. That's the paradox. The more you go beyond form, the more gently and fully you can love forms. So, begin where you are. Try what calls you. Deepen where you're drawn. Stay open to change. Practice with joy when you can, with honesty when you can't. Surround yourself with reminders, but keep your compass inside. Let meditation reveal wisdom. Let wisdom invite purification, and let purification sharpen your meditation. Keep singing if singing opens you. Keep serving if service softens you. Little by little, inevitably, you enter yourself. And as you cross the ocean of illusion, you find the shoreless sea of the formless, and you rest, not as an escape, but as the ground from which love can meet the world, quietly and without end.